The next OnePlus flagship might come with something fans were never used to seeing from the brand, a much higher price tag. For years, OnePlus built its reputation on delivering flagship killer phones, devices with top-tier specs, powerful performance, and premium design, but at a price noticeably lower than competitors like Samsung or Apple. But according to a new leak, that era might finally be coming to an end. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you more tech breakdowns like this one. A recent report from well-known tech tipster Digital Chat Station suggests that upcoming flagship phones from several Chinese brands could see a major price jump this year, and one of the most likely candidates affected by this shift is the upcoming OnePlus 16. If the leak turns out to be accurate, the next flagship from OnePlus could start at around 5,000 yuan in China. That's roughly $725. Now, on the surface, that number might not seem shocking, especially when you compare it with the current US price of the OnePlus 15, which launched at about $899. But here's where things get interesting. The OnePlus 15 actually started at around 39.99 yuan in China, roughly $560 at launch. If the next model jumps to 5,000 yuan, that's a massive 1,000 yuan increase. And when price increases happen in the home market, they usually translate to even higher retail prices globally. So if we connect the dots, the OnePlus 16 could easily launch at $100 or even $150 more than its predecessor in international markets. That means the starting price could creep dangerously close to or even past the $1,000 mark. And that's a huge shift for a brand that built its identity around offering flagship performance at a more reasonable price. But why is this happening now? There are two major forces pushing smartphone prices upward in 2026. The first is a global surge in memory costs. RAM and storage components have become more expensive across the industry, which means manufacturers are paying significantly more just to build the same configurations, like 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, which has become the new standard for flagship phones. But the second, and arguably bigger factor, is the next generation of smartphone processors. The upcoming OnePlus flagship is expected to use the powerful Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 Pro from Qualcomm, and this chip could be built using a cutting-edge 2-nanometer manufacturing process from TSMC. That level of technology is incredibly impressive from a performance standpoint. A 2-nanometer chip can deliver better power efficiency, faster speeds, and improved AI processing compared to current generation chips. For users, that could mean longer battery life, stronger gaming performance, and more advanced on-device AI features. But the technology comes at a massive cost. Reports suggest that a single 2-nanometer silicon wafer from TSMC could cost around $30,000. That's almost double the price of wafers used for 4-nanometer chips just a few years ago. And when production costs rise that dramatically, manufacturers usually have only two choices: absorb the cost or pass it on to consumers. In this case, it looks like the cost might be passed on. For a long time, OnePlus managed to balance cutting-edge hardware with aggressive pricing. It positioned its phones as alternatives to ultra-premium devices like Samsung's Galaxy Ultra series or Apple's Pro Max lineup, offering similar performance without the extreme price. But the smartphone market has changed. Hardware is becoming more expensive, innovation is slowing, and profit margins are tighter than ever. So the strategy that once made OnePlus famous might simply not be sustainable anymore. If the OnePlus 16 really does launch at a significantly higher price, it could mark the end of the classic flagship killer era that defined the brand for almost a decade. And that raises an interesting question. If OnePlus phones start costing the same as the flagship devices they once tried to undercut, what makes them stand out? Of course, the company could still compete on performance, design, fast charging, and software experience, but price was always a huge part of the appeal. Without that advantage, the OnePlus 16 will have to prove its value in new ways. Now, to be clear, this information is still based on leaks and industry speculation. Nothing has been officially confirmed by OnePlus yet. But when you look at rising component costs, next-generation chip technology, and the broader trend of increasing smartphone prices, the possibility of a more expensive OnePlus flagship suddenly doesn't seem surprising at all. In fact, it might just be inevitable. So, if you've been considering upgrading to the next OnePlus flagship later this year, you might want to prepare for something different. Not just a more powerful phone, but potentially the first OnePlus flagship that fully steps into the premium price territory it once tried to challenge. And if that happens, the OnePlus 15 might end up being remembered as the last true flagship killer the company ever made. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section. See you in the next video. Take care.